All right, here we are. So is everybody check out like audio, like video okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're all good.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, I think like we can get started. Thank you everyone for like joining this panel, and it's my honor like to host everybody here. And here we have some of the major crypto figures here in Southeast Asia. What about we just have a round of like, so what about we just have a round of introduction of everyone, and I think we can start it from like Tascha.
Yeah, sure. So hi, I'm Tascha, co-founder and CEO of Alpha Venture DAO. Previously, we were Alpha Finance Lab before we pivoted and expanded earlier this year. I can save that for later. Born and raised here in Thailand, and went to study in the US and worked there for a few years, and also worked in London for another year before coming back to our home base, Southeast Asia.
Cool. Loi.
Hey everyone, my name is Loi, co-founder of Kyber. We started back in 2017 as the decentralized exchange. I think we were among the first back then, right? I think that was the year of the DEX with like Kyber and 0x and a few
0x,
others.
yeah, exactly.
So currently we have a couple more other products. One of that is and of course we are still developing our decentralized exchange. We have another one called Crystal, which is a Web3 multi-chain wallet. And we also have our own venture arms. We invest in a lot of project Web3 project in Southeast Asia. That's our main focus. Yeah.
Yeah, like cool. So because Loi and I, we first met in San Francisco in like early 2017. That's even before DeFi is DeFi.
Right.
And
right.
it has been ages and like multiple cycles, up and downs, and yeah, it's like so glad to see we have the OG power here on the panel as well. Okay, so what about Beryl?
Hi everyone. My name is Beryl. Thanks for having me here. I'm co-founder of Legal Games. I look after finance, some of the strategies within YGG as well as legal. So my background has been in fintech in the past, and my co-founder and I, my co-founder who's very much focused on gaming, we decided to work together and really establish a DAO-like structure for a guild, a gaming guild. So we buy a number of these NFT assets and we lend them out to our community of players. We started in the Philippines and then slowly expanded in other emerging markets.
Oh, I think we're missing you.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, so I think the first question here I have for all the panelists is all the panelists has a strong root here in like Southeast Asia, and then has also like global horizon. And then so just like comparing with like local Southeast Asia, like the culture and the people here, and then their like behavioral pattern. And then so what do you guys think is like make Southeast Asia like kind of like special when it comes to the crypto mainstream adoption? I think probably we can start from like Beryl, because you have done a lot of localization for YGG when it comes to like Philippines, and like right now expand out of like Philippines. And do you see any like interesting observation over there? Just like comparing with like more developed like Western world?
Definitely the demographics, right? So you have like a young population, a growing population as well. Looking at, of course, like the GDP per capita is very unique compared to like Western countries. And for Yield Games, we saw an opportunity of being able to, lend certain gaming assets to them that actually cost money to be able to like participate in the game. So that happened during the pandemic, during COVID. So so during that time, we saw an opportunity where with a mobile phone and internet connectivity, gamers or players are able to just go online, download games, and then play games with assets that they borrow from us, and they earn in-game rewards. And this was a period of time when there was when there were lockdowns in the Philippines, and yeah, a lot of people have lost jobs. And then currently, as we enter a recessionary period, yeah, more people are now looking for alternative ways of looking for income. And I believe that it's just really unique to the Philippines or emerging markets and Southeast Asia in general.
Yeah, so basically COVID has been such a good catalyst for like jobs on demand and also like virtual jobs, and like basically people are looking for alternative like income stream, right? And I think that that's also true for DeFi in general, because like Laura, do you remember back in the days and when it comes to like decentralized exchanges, and then it has been considered as pretty geeky and very like just like crypto native stuff, and like there's no people outside crypto talk about this, right? And then like we have seen Alpha Finance, and then we have seen a lot of like good innovation like coming up like since like 2020, like since the major crash like out of like 2020.
Right.
So I think a natural question to ask here is we have been talking about try to bank the unbanked, and like that's such a major narrative for the entire crypto. And then do you see this like narrative or like this application like work out really well specifically for the Southeast Asia like demographics?
Well, I mean,
think,
like, yeah. Sorry.
Go ahead, Loi. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, like, I think I'm okay. So at least like in a few countries that I have been to, right, like Vietnam and Singapore and a couple of other countries, I think the access to bank is relatively easy at the moment. Like people can very easily to set up the bank account and get some sort of like business with the bank, right? But I think what people here are lacking is other financial services, right? Because like for example, like in Vietnam, I mean, like people can just invest in like real estate, right? Or like a couple of other stock, and that's it. There's no like complicated or like more like advanced financial product that they can get exposed to or build a career on top of it, right? So I think that's where when DeFi is booming back in like end of 2019 or like early 2020, a lot of like young people in Southeast Asia, I think because they are young and they they're open-minded and they they wanted like to get something, right? They wanted like to build something or to get like exposed to like new opportunity to actually like make some money from it, right? I think DeFi is back then it's like very very easy and very attractive to them, and since they young, they have time, they can learn fast, right? I think that's a big catalyst for the popular like adoption of DeFi in Southeast Asia.
Yeah, I think another thing to add actually is that with Southeast Asia like economy as a whole, I feel like it's pretty driven by SMEs in general, right? So so that huge portion of the economy is hugely impacted since COVID and like multiple year of lockdowns. So once business owners of SMEs are impacted, employees of those SMEs are impacted, and hence they're starting to look for alternative ways of finding income. And hence, because the not limited access to banks, but more limited access to financial services that can generate globally average returns is very limited. Then they have to turn to the next best that's available to them, which is crypto. But fortunately, if people do their research and trade well, then that could even be higher returns than the globally average financial services.
Right. I think like so the other very interesting phenomena is when it comes to China market, US market, like Western market in general, and centralized exchanges has been such a dominant play out there, right? Because we have seen most of the exchanges, like a big portion of the exchanges out there, centralized exchanges are like Chinese background exchanges or like American background exchanges, and then we haven't seen any local, just like Southeast Asia local exchanges like really taking off. And do you think that might be another reason that there is a vacuum to fill like there's like a vacuum there's a vacuum to fill out there between the consumer facing application and then also this like DeFi or like GameFi and crypto native application. So like feels to me that Southeast Asian users out there pretty much just like frog leap the entire centralized and custodianship and then dive right into the crypto native play. Like it can be either GameFi or like DeFi. So really want to hear like the panelist thoughts here.
Yeah, in my opinion, I feel like it's yes and no. I think the yes part is that just because of the nature of lockdown and SME driven economy, and hence they seek and probably like a bit more risky, okay with a bit more risk to jump into DeFi right away, or GameFi right away as opposed to just trading on exchanges. So I think that might be true, but the no part is that with the, let's say, especially in Thailand, right, with the limited number of people we have as compared to China, or even in the US, it's just yeah, pretty hard, or like a bit harder for local exchange to capture as much of a market share as opposed to an exchange that's local to China, right? So I think that's why a lot of the centralized financial firms in Thailand, at least in Thailand, they're trying to focus more on like how do they scale that to a bit more global, whether it's pivoting or opening multiple offices in different countries, making sure they kind of not rely only on the Thailand economy, just because we have not that many people and lower number of capital as a whole.
Yeah. Just like talking about the population, because Southeast Asia, like Indonesia, actually ranked the first among all the Southeast Asian like countries here.
That's true. I think it's the dollar value of money that that is going to be harder to match with the US or China.
I think I can speak for Vietnam a little bit, right? Because like I think the major issues in Vietnam is that we don't have regulation about crypto here yet. So that's why like there's no centralized chains that can legally operate here. I mean, of course, it's not illegal to operate a crypto to crypto one, but I think like if you just do like crypto to crypto exchange, there's no way that you can beat guys like Binance or like FTX, right? So usually like people just go there, like go to Binance or FTX directly instead of like going to any like local like crypto to crypto exchange. And I think so that comes to the question, like how do people do like fiat on ramp and off ramp, right? I think the most popular way that people do is like via Binance OTC, right? Or via the OTC channel in the black market. And I think after that, they just like go to like DeFi for you, right? Or I think a lot of people also like get exposure to GameFi as well as an alternative way to make money. Yeah, so I think we have the population, we have the traffic, but we just I think the traffic of Vietnam users to a few top exchanges like Binance is around is among top 5, right? So we have the traffic, but we just don't have a clear regulation framework yet for any local exchange to operate here yet.
Yeah. Maybe I could add a little bit to that as well. So from my experience with like onboarding players in the Philippines, right? So our clients normally don't have like bank accounts, and it's actually their first time to use crypto, right, in the form of NFTs without them realizing that what they're actually playing with are actually on the blockchain. So because we actually lend out these assets, the on-ramp is they don't have that burden of going on ramp, right? Like going onto the blockchain and buying all these assets. They end up playing, they earn in-game rewards. And because they figured out that, oh, this in-game rewards can actually be converted into fiat without realizing that these are actually crypto assets, they actually learn to actually look for these centralized exchanges that are regulated in the Philippines or maybe in other like countries, and they learn how to cash out from their in-game rewards into fiat. And then once they actually realize that this is something that they can do like monthly, right, like or weekly with their in-game rewards, they kind of like trust the system to kind of leave their some of the rewards that they have in their wallets, and then they end up learning how to actually use the centralized exchanges. They actually learn how to use Uniswap, how do they actually use SushiSwap or Farm, for example. So they actually end up learning how to use DeFi platforms more than those who actually have bank accounts. So in terms of like leapfrogging, yes, we could see that just because once they know, it's kind of like a carrot for them. Once they know that they actually have these rewards and they can actually convert them into like real like value, right? Whether it's still on chain or like off ramp, they're kind of like forced to kind of like learn all these like platforms.
Yeah, like that's super cool, because I think to some extent, because I'm more familiar with what's happening in like China and like US right now, to some extent, I think many Chinese users or like US or like Western users are kind of like spoiled by the centralized exchanges, and because they have like world-class like customer service, and then so there's always like instant feedback, and then so it's basically like they can they're hand holding their like users on like everything, especially on like the custody part. But like just like, so on the flip side, it's like the users basically lacking the hands-on experience, like when it comes to like playing with like GameFi and like DeFi. I think another question is we have a talk about the user part, and then what about the builder part? Because I know like all the panelists here, and you have built like amazing products and have built a great team around it. And also I heard there's a lot of like good developers, like especially in like Vietnam. Like that's what I heard from many of my like portfolio companies as well. And then how's like the talent distribution right now, especially like especially like crypto talent or like Web3 talent in general? Like how's the talent distribution currently in Thailand, in Philippines, in like Vietnam, and or just like what type of talents are they? Developer? Are they more business focused like talents? And just like, can you share more insights on that? Like Laura, like do you want to start? Because I know Vietnam has
sure.
a lot of like good developers.
Sure. Yeah, I think in general, like I think before GameFi and DeFi took off, right? Vietnam already has a lot of developers, but most of them like work for like outsourcing companies. And I think like every year we sort of like export a lot of like developers to countries like Japan and like US and Europe as well. And there are several companies that have like tens of thousands of developers, right? So when DeFi and GameFi took off, and especially like due to the success of companies like Sky Mavis, right, which is based here in Vietnam, a lot of people say that hey, a lot of people think that they can also like do something with DeFi or with GameFi, right? And especially like with GameFi, I think we have like tons of like boutique game studios here, right? And with the inspiration from like IC Infinity, they just like jump into the space, start their own project, and do all the fundraise and things like that with the help of like other people in the industry. Yeah, but like I think in terms of like distribution, first of all, we have the engineer who can make things done, right? But we don't have the I think we're lacking like a few position, like for example, like product manager. I think it's really hard to find a good product manager in Vietnam, for example, right? Or like the solution architect, for example, as well. Because like I think to build a good DeFi product, first of all, you need to know what to build first, right? It's not just like you just like clone Uniswap or like and build something out of it, right? And I think like for GameFi, I think because many of the game studio here, they are used to like build casual games, right? Like games that probably take them like a couple of weeks to build and launch, right? So when it comes to GameFi, I think many of them try to replicate the same model, like building some very easy and casual game, and launch the token and sell the NFT. So I mean, like during the bull market, they can make some money, but like it's hard like to retain the users. It's hard like to actually like last the game for like a few months, right? Because and I think that's also the issues that many of them are trying to solve. Like how can they how can they build a game that can actually fun and can last like, for a couple of years, right? Because that's not the expertise that they have here in Vietnam, and most of them are like just like used to like build a game that can last them like for a couple of months and then they move on to the next one. But it's not something that they can that can fit well with like Web3 games.
Yeah, I think like Beryl, like so I know like YGG has been working with a lot of like game developers out there, and do you have any thoughts on that?
So it's really surprising. So we actually started late 2020, early 2021 when there were lockdowns, right? So everybody actually works remotely. And we at YGG, when we actually hire engineers, it has always been within the community, always on Discord channels. And there's like a proliferation of pseudonymity as well in like engineering teams. And we actually respect their pseudonymity, and we're seeing a number of really like talented engineers come on board YGG, as long as like we respect that that pseudonymity of theirs. We're seeing as well talent from from engineers to I'd say managers, like gaming managers. So they're kind of like, they act as recruiters for gamers, for example, and they're the ones like training new users, for example. If they're very new to the game, they don't know the game, they're the ones training the actual users and then getting them familiar with the game and then really increasing their skill. So when you actually play games, it's really important that you're skillful as well. So managers actually play a really, really important role. And these are normally individuals who've been gamers in the past. So we see them and onboard them like remotely. So most of the games that we also invested in, they also have synonymous engineering teams. And like most of them are also like working remotely.
Yeah. And I know like Alpha Finance has been like incubating like multiple like DeFi projects, and just I wanted to hear like from just a talent part. And do you find the talent tends to be more like local, like Southeast Asian talent, or like do you find talent to be more like global?
Yeah, so usually the projects we accept and incubate are from all around the world. And latest for the last batch, the ones that apply, there are like around 300 projects that apply from all over the world, and we accepted only 3. And unfortunately, none of them is from Southeast Asia. And I think it comes down to similar point to what Loi was saying, right? In which, in order to create a really strong product, you have to understand, holistically and understand the views of, the upcoming trends, or even, how you think of the next bull run's going to be, or what are the needs of the people in this industry, right? And I think just the nature of crypto space and development in general that just came out very recently, especially in Southeast Asia. So I think it's just a skill that just going to take a bit more time to develop. But I think, us as a region, I think we're on the right track in order to, foster that, talent pool to grow a bit more, and also encourage more builders in the space in general. But yeah, what Loi was saying about product managers, I don't think that's a problem in Vietnam only. I think that's a problem with the whole space, just because the whole space is so new, right? So the only people that can have that creativity and innovation to create something or create new product that's not a clone would definitely have to hang out in this space for quite some time, that you actually live and breathe the demand of this space. So I think it's kind of natural of the whole thing that we're going through, just because we're in such a new industry globally.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like talent has been such a lagging indicator like in our space, and like especially in like bear market. And I think in like bull market we can see a lot of like opportunistic people like joining the space, and then when it comes to the bear market, and then so many of them just like many of them are like leaving the space, and then so we are now in this downturn, and I think the signal to noise ratio is actually getting higher. and it's actually getting higher because we have not that much show, and we have like more like washout of like bad players that we have seen. And but the thing is, right now in bear market, and there's also like a major contraction happening, right? Balance sheet contracting everywhere, and we have seen the TVL of the entire DeFi drop like over 50%, like since the peak, and also like the daily active users of like most of the GameFi are like down badly as well. And do you guys have any probably the silver lining here? Like, what is the silver lining? Just from your horizon, during the current bear market.
Well, I mean, like, I guess I can start first, right? Because I feel like this bear market is no different from the previous one, and I think like from our experience, you know, bear market is the best time like for you to build and to invest, right? People are more focused, people are more humble, right? Valuation is more reasonable, right? And also like talents are not like demanding like crazy amount of like compensation, right? So I mean like so we're actually happy, right? We're actually happy that, you know, this is the I mean, everyone expected this correction, right? But whether everyone can prepare for that is a different question, right? So like, for example, for us, like we prepare, you know, we are well prepared for this bear market, and now we're just like deploying and getting more people on board, right? So
to add a bit more. Oh, sorry. One phrase that I like, which I also said to my team as well, is that this is like our showtime, because it's pretty much like a showtime that really differentiates the ones that are in for the long term and the ones that can innovate, as opposed to you know, forking or other means of doing it, right? And I think product is one thing, but there are also a lot of the other things behind the scene and the infrastructure stuff, not the tech infrastructure, but like company project infrastructure, that will differentiate whether the project's going to make it or not. And hence that's why it's showtime, right? So project infrastructure, for example, how do you manage treasury? How do you think of legal, you know, security? How do you think of financial accounting structure, given the, you know, ever-changing and unknown uncertainty in the future? So all of these things are the ones that you pretty much have to go through, but I think are, you know, misperceived before, that, you know, you don't actually have to get through this because money is just so easy to find. So I think it kind of takes that perception away from builders in general, and now people, you know, have to actually like do the real thing. And I think when that comes to, you know, this time, then that means that the projects that are more prepared, and hence in order to be more prepared, then you have to be more long term, are going to be, you know, have more chance of pulling it off and actually, you know, show the showtime that you're in for the long term.
Yeah, totally agree with what Tascha and Loi just said, right? We always tell ourselves that this is just one cycle and there's going to be more cycles in the future, right? And there have been a few cycles also in the past, starting from Bitcoin in 2008, right? We've seen all these with all these cycles. Once it actually goes down, it weeds out, you know, like players that just wants to actually cash out really quickly, and then in the bear market, if you actually keep building and focusing, that's when real innovation really happens, and you actually innovate the first edition of your technology, right? And then you start thinking about better models that would work better for 2.0, right? And so, like right now that it's a bear market, we're seeing those who are really serious about building something and growing their team really like focusing and just like, you know, just really building right now.
Yeah, because I think like the bear market is so, I tweeted about this before, like price winter, builders summer, okay? And when like the price is down, it's always at like the prime time for like all the builders, like especially builder with methodical ways to manage like their budget, their treasury, and then and like especially for the projects that who didn't overexpand, because we have seen a lot of like overexpansion like during like bull market, and then which we saw in some like budget contraction right now, and we have seen Coinbase and many other major projects, and they just like stop hiring or like even just like major layoff. And I think another question just like related to the bear market to all the panelists here is, like if I'm a project founder, say for instance, and my token is already liquid, and my token probably down 95% right now. And then should I stick with my current project? Because it seems like the narrative of my current project is that, because we all know the narrative is like spinning quickly in the crypto market, and Loi knows this. And I think Tascha also knows this, because I have been following Alpha Finance like since that day one. There's a multiple iteration going on. And so any advice for the current builders, especially with the token already liquid out there in the market? Should they just, abandon the current one and completely pivot, or probably come out as another non-project? Like, what's the best advice here?
I don't think you should abandon for sure, morally wise and everything. But I think it's definitely you need to like re-strategize things. So the way that I think about how you strategize building in bull market is going to be different from how you do it in the bear market. So when it's in the bull market, you have a lot of liquidity, you have a lot of attention, you had a lot of narratives and trends. You have to build in such a way that you ride the trends and ride the narratives, because otherwise attention can be, very segregated very easily, right? So hence, that's why in the last bull run, we see a lot of projects building products that may not actually solve the actual underlying problem of, blockchain development, but it rides the trends, it rides the narrative. Yeah. However, we cannot, go with that in the bear market, because attention is, gone. Liquidity is also, not here. And there's no trends, because no one's actually, paying attention as much as before. So which means now it's a time that you actually need to think through what are the fundamental problems in the space in different angles, right? If it's in the game, if it's in the DAO tooling side, if it's in the infrastructure, there are problems in all the layers. You just have to pinpoint what are your strengths and how do you, pivot or like expand from your narrative, the current narrative, such that it captures the next problem that you should solve as well. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that, and definitely not abandon. I don't think that's a good for anyone.
Yeah, and
agreed. Agreed. So when like right now, we see, I always tell myself that markets are always irrational. So when things are good, everyone just like FOMOs, and they all want to be in, right? And then when it actually, when people start liquidating, everyone just starts liquidating, right? And loses out. But what really matters is fundamentals, right? So it's for those building, and like people in my team, we always tell them that don't look at the FDV right now, don't look at the valuation. I think we should focus on what actually builds the fundamentals of the company. So so it's just perfect to actually just focus and really like separate what's the valuation out there. Just because when your token is public and it's already out in the with the mercy of the rigors of the market, you cannot control it, right? But what you can control is really your product, the quality of your team, and the vision.
So speaking about this, right, I think I can share sort of like, I think end of the day, it really depends on the conviction of the founders, right? Like if you have a strong conviction about your team and what you're building, you should never quit, right? You should never quit. I think I can share a sort of like quick a funny story, right? Because like I think back in 2018, I invested in another GameFi project called Ethereum, right? And they were like, back then they were like the most popular GameFi project with only like 1,000 players, but still no one beat them, right? Axie Infinity just started back then, and they were like only a couple of hundred of users, daily active users. So Ethereum was like still the top players, but when the bear market comes, the founders, I think they have like 4 or 5 founders back then, but like they couldn't continue, mainly because they lost faith in the space,
Mm.
right? So they were like, it's very hard like for everyone to play, and it's very hard to onboard new users, and everything drops, right? Ether price drop and their revenue drop and things like that. So they stopped. I think they sold the project to like the community or something. The Axie Infinity guy, they continue, right? They try to raise the seed round to maintain, to survive. And what happened next, right? So so I think end of the day, it's really about the conviction of the team, the conviction of the founders, right? If you still believe in what you are building, then don't stop.
Yeah. I think like for our space it's like kind of like not like survival for the fittest, but it's like survival for the remaining. Like who can be remaining at the last, and then so are the king, right? And so it's all about perseverance. So I can totally feel that, like having been through like multiple cycles, and like especially seeing some of my first like alternative investment in crypto are than ETH and Bitcoin, like Kyber and like a bunch of others, and like BAT, and like they basically stick around like after cycles and like doing pretty well. And I think we have 3 more minutes, and so the last question for our panelists here is, when it comes to a next cycle, and then we all know there will be a next cycle, it's just a matter of time, right? When it comes to a next cycle, and if you have to pick just one thing to work on, just like because it's resource allocation problem, right? If you can only pick one thing to work on and for the future of your projects, and like what's that thing? And like just like probably try to be specific. Beryl, like you want to start like on like the gaming part, or like on YGG in general, or like DAO, or like anything you have in mind? Yeah.
So at the moment, we're currently like focused on building product, but our product won't be out until maybe next year, right? But we've started just like focusing building, and what's important for us is the identity layer of all our gamers. So like right now, when gamers apply for scholarship, they're just all on Discord channels, right? So right now we're building that identity layer, because in the future, through the identity layer, we know what games they play with, how many hours they actually spend, for example, the wallets they interact with, and from those data points, we can actually build other forms of financial services, right? Like other forms of uncollateralized loans, insurance. So so the identity layer is really important and really interesting for us.
Yeah. I think like that layer is also core to the in-game social graph, as well as like the future credit system as well, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, cool. And like Tascha?
Yeah, so with Alpha, I didn't get to explain this a bit earlier, but as Alpha Venture DAO, you can think of it as a decentralized Web3 VC, in which instead of portfolio companies, we have incubated projects, right? So then the question becomes, how do we bring value to these incubated projects such that they want to be a part of our ecosystem, and pretty much get mentorship from us, and enjoy the benefit of our ecosystem, right? So it comes down to, how do we transfer the know-how we have from building the products that we have, from Homora, from AlphaX, and many other products, to the new wave of Web3 projects. So I think the key thing, if I were to focus on, if I have only one thing, would be making sure that there is little drop off of knowledge transferring between building the products that we're doing, translating to the incubation part that we do, because incubation part is the one that really drive the value to Alpha holders.
Yep, cool. And Loi?
I guess for us it's quite simple. Our goal is to really like simplify DeFi and Web3, right, to the retails, so that hopefully we can onboard like millions more users to like decentralized exchange and like to Web3 in general, right? That's what we are doing. Yeah.
Basically, just say double down on the mass adoption path, right?
Right.
Yeah, cool. I think that's pretty much it for our panel today. And so everybody, and no matter we are Chinese, American, like European, and I think the whole Web3 and crypto is just like global from like day one. And then like Southeast Asia is like such a promising space. And for like different projects and like different like talent and like and then also like investor from like global space like to like tap into, and like definitely looking forward to have like more knowledge exchange like with all the panelists in the future. And so probably last one is like, if any advice, like just like any advice for all the token holders and investors and builders in the bear market, just like one sentence quickly from everyone.
I would say do your own research. Not every token's gonna make it. Yep.
Yep.
Maybe for me, this is there's going to be more cycles, right?
Yeah, just hanging there. Yeah. Loi?
Sure, what else to advise, but you know, just hold.
Just hold on.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I think that's pretty much it for today's panel, and hope everybody enjoyed us, and then we can also follow our panelists and then also follow myself on Twitter for more like up-to-date like crypto stuff. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.